Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Hi, Shalom.
Hello, it's great to be with you, Dr. Randall. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. We have Dr. Shalom Klein. Now, what are you a doctor of?
Doctor of Education and Leadership.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I should have known that. Okay. He is really called the king of networking. and he's just awesome. I was on his show. We had so much fun. But he's definitely a community activist and entrepreneur. He's a published author, and we'll unpack that in a minute, who hosts the popular show called Get Down to Business, which is a radio show and a podcast, right?
That is correct. Absolutely. And I will reiterate what you just said. It was fun to have you on, and a little bit of different format. And it's fun. I do a lot of these podcasts, but then also, with the radio, you have time between commercials, and whether you like it or not, the commercials are going to fire up, and you just got to make sure you're packing in as much content as possible. So you did it. You did it great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I listened to a number of your podcasts, so I tried to get in your rhythm, and I get it. So he also is an officer in the U.S. Army Reserves, the military police. Thank you for your service there, Shalom. We got to honor all of our servicemen, especially at the beginning of the year here. He is the chairman of the Village of Skokokie Economic Development Commission. He also holds, as he just said, a doctorate in educational leadership, a master's degree in Jewish professional studies, and a concentration in nonprofit management, which I'm sure comes in handy for you. He is on the executive committee as an active leader for employer support of the Guard and Reserve. So thank you for that as well. And so tell us about your book, Shalom. It also has the same name. Get Back to Business. What inspired that? Where'd that come from?
I will tell you this, Gail. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I'd be hosting a radio show and writing a book, I would have said, we need to check you out and make sure that everything is okay. But you know what? It's been a journey from the time I was, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it. But from the time I was young, I've always been very, very focused. Had a very strong work ethic, and have always been an all or nothing kind of person. So you can't do everything, but when I put myself in something, I try to go all the way. And so when I got involved in this world of small business, jobs, entrepreneurship, I went in knee deep and really dedicated my life, my career to it, to the point of being very involved in policy and advocacy on these issues. And I was approached, I remember this was when I was 25 years old. I was approached by a publisher. Why don't you consider, writing a book on this, and, we'll market it, we'll get the word out and all that. And I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I pushed it off for a little bit, until I felt, I actually have something that's there. And the publisher wanted me to call it, You Can Do It Before 30. And I didn't like the title. So as you just mentioned, I went with the same title as my radio show, Get Down to Business. And it really is a number of the things that I've learned. What I mean by that is I have been very, very fortunate to have been surrounded by amazing people like you that I get to interview on my radio show, and that I've learned from, and that have molded me and developed me into the leader that I am today. And really what the book, Get Down to Business, is really a compilation of a lot of those lessons that I've found that have worked, and the inspiration that I have. And I hope that it inspires other people as well to do it and to really put their, put their feet to the fire and say, hey, make it happen because anybody can do it. I am not the smartest person. I'm not the most talented person. I just understand how to focus, work hard, and try to bring a dream to reality. And that's what the book is all about.
You got good follow through. Is that right?
I try.
So what made you an entrepreneur, would you say? When did you become an entrepreneur?
It's a great question. So I grew up in a family, as you mentioned, I grew up in Chicago, and I grew up in a family where I'd say both of my parents were entrepreneurs. My mother was a paralegal at a large law firm. And what I mean by entrepreneur, she actually worked in a, as I said, large law firm in that corporate world. But she woke up very early every single morning. Again, an intense drive. And I connect the two things of drive and entrepreneurship together. But my father has always dabbled in, when he sees an opportunity, he's willing to take a little bit of risk and make things happen. So we probably broke many child labor laws as I was growing up as a kid. I was involved in many of my dad's businesses growing up from the time I was very, very young. I started doing his invoicing when I was, I think, 12 years old. I actually took on clients by the time I was 14 or 15. And he taught me a lot. So primarily, my father has been in accounting. And while I have said, I swore as a kid I would never end up in the family business, I was the only kid in third grade that had a budget. So I was doomed. And really, it was those lessons that started me in this entrepreneurial journey. And you mentioned, Yale, that I have a master's in nonprofit management. And absolutely, it's interesting. What I've found is that entrepreneurship and nonprofit are not a contradiction whatsoever. Entrepreneurship is a way of life. It's that drive, that focus, and that risk taking to some extent, and creative thinking. And so I'd say my entrepreneurship journey started from a very young age. Yeah.
It reminds me, when I was a medical student, I started a group practice of medical students, and we would do history and physicals on these cardiology professors' patients. They didn't want to come in at night because they were just coming in for cardiac caths or whatever. And so we had a group. I formed a group, and it was like a group practice. And we felt like we had more money than whatever. But that was my first. Well, I don't know if it was my first, but it was one of the entrepreneurial things I did when I was really young, like you. So I get that. So tell me, what in your book, what was the most, I guess I'm sure you wrote about it, but what was the most inspiring lesson that you received in terms of, get back to business? What was it? What spurred you? What sparked you?
So much. Wow. It's a deep question. I'd say the number one thing that I've learned, and I could point to the aha moments that I felt, but that I share in the book, is learning something from everybody. So I'll take you back to 2009, which feels like just yesterday on some levels, but it also feels like ages ago on many others. But 2009, I moved back from New York to Chicago. I was working in New York in a media position for a fairly large nonprofit, and I came back to Chicago. My father had been begging me to come back and join him in a business, and I felt like I had accomplished some of the things that I wanted to accomplish in that other job in New York. And by the way, I was 19 years old at the time, and my dad said, "Come back. Let's bring you into the business, and I'll take a step back. I know you've got a lot of ideas of how the business should be formed. Come in, and you can essentially take over, and let's see you, smart Alec. Let's see what you can do." And that's exactly what we did. And so this is, again, 2009, tough economy, and lots of people out of work, lots of small businesses that were struggling. And everybody told me that if you want to grow a business, what do? You need to network. You need to get out there, and you need to meet a lot of people. How do you do that? You join chambers of commerce, you get involved in different networking organizations. So I started following all of that advice, and it was good advice. And I was going to many events a day, a breakfast event, a lunch event, an after hours event, so many different seminars and workshops, and having a lot of coffee meetings afterwards. And what ended up happening is I started meeting a lot of job seekers, and a lot of, in addition to the job seekers, a lot of companies that were actually hiring as well. So in my mind, I immediately had a click that went, a connection, and I realized, hey, this person's looking for work, this person's hiring, let's become the matchmaker, let's connect the dots. But the job seekers is what I want to highlight for a second. To many folks that I had known, they said, you're wasting your time. Why are you spending half of your day that could be used so much more productively? You've already established your reputation as a networker. You've got a lot of things that you can do. Why are you spending half your day at Starbucks meeting people for coffee that are looking for work? And I realized that there's something to learn from absolutely everybody that you interact with. And I learned that lesson a while ago, and it was at that moment that it clicked. I can literally count on one hand, on my one hand's fingers, the number of times I've met somebody that I've walked away and said, okay, it's great that we met, but nothing further. There's nothing more that we need to stay in touch about or anything like that. I pride myself on my follow-through skills, and I've met some amazing people, and I've learned some of the most amazing lessons from sitting with those job seekers, which some people said was a waste of time. I tend to differ, and I think I've learned so much from those individuals and some of those connections that I retain now, 12, 13 years later.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I think that's a beautiful thing, actually. I learned that too when I was very young, actually with old people. I would sit with old people because they would say, oh, old people don't have anything to say. Well, actually, old people have a lot to say. They hold the wisdom of the past, and they're so interesting, actually. You can learn a lot from them. And did you learn from these unemployed people something about, in helping to propel them forward or to help to propel them? What did you...
Yeah, I did. I certainly learned things about, as they've talked about some of the things that they've done. So again, in 2009, I'm thinking of a couple of different people in particular. That's their names and stories are rushing through my brain right now. But folks that were in their 50s or 60s that thought that they were going to retire from the job that they were in, and they were laid off, whether it was age discrimination or something else. And they shared with me a lot of their own experiences. Unfortunately, I was able to connect the dots, and again, in some of those cases, actually introduce them to employers that absolutely can benefit from their skills. But exactly as you just said, Gail, I mean, there is a lot of wisdom there. And I, as much as, folks are saying that even now, I mean, we're basically in another sort of resurgence of some of the same things that we saw back in 2009 as we talk about the pandemic. A lot of folks that lost their jobs, and jobs, of course, are coming back, but only certain type of jobs. I do think that there's absolutely a place, and it's how you network. It's how you network and how you present yourself. So hopefully I was able to share lessons with those individuals as well, because they certainly taught me a lot. But for me, what I tried to convey was, who are you? And I love the name of the podcast, Soul Stories. Who are you? What is your current identity? And everybody likes to say, oh, well, on my resume, I talk about this and that job that I had. Great, fantastic, that's wonderful. But again, who are you? Who are you? What is that identity that makes you you and that makes you special? Once you are able to articulate that, there's no stopping you. Then you are able to share your passion, share your expertise with so many, whether it's employers or people, that absolutely can benefit from who you are. And that's so again, it's a two-way street. It's certainly been a relationship for sure. And by the way, it's funny that you mentioned called The Elderly. As we're recording this, I was actually just reading online. I saw that Betty White passed just days shy of her 100th birthday. And I was just reading some of the things that she's said and written and recorded and so on. So lots of wisdom there for sure.
Yeah. Well, she's always been such a positive person, which is probably why she lived so long. I'm really into studying blue zones and why people live so long. So I would say that that was her key to success for her. But so tell us, you're also a pretty good marketer, it seems. You have a lot of followers. And so what is your secret there?
Storytelling. Honestly, it's storytelling. I'm not, as I said, the smartest person under the sun, but I'm passionate about everything that I do. If there's something that's on my mind, if when I'm driving and somebody comes to mind, I'm going to call them and I'm going to talk. And if I am passionate about something, I'm going to tell people about it. So everything that I'm doing right now, whether it's the radio show, the book, but also, frankly, my service in the Army, I talk about it and I tell people that story. I think a lot of people are buttoned up and try to portray an image. I don't have an image to portray. What you see is what you get. And I just, again, it's all about getting down to business. It's let's make it happen. Let's tell those stories. And again, I get to meet amazing people and help them tell their stories too. So that is the advice that I'd share. And that's what I plan to do until the day I die.
Yeah, we have a lot in common that way. I'm very much about, being authentic, being myself, and my passion. My passion is what drives me. But like in terms of nuts and bolts, can you give some of the people that may be listening, like, how do I get as popular as Dr. Klein?
Absolutely. No, there. So I'll.
I mean, obviously, it's your story and your personality, and you're amazing. But what are some nuts and bolts you can share with them as to what they should do?
Okay, so a couple of things, because I want everybody to be surpass anything that I've done. That's always the goal. The first thing that I'd say is use every tool that's available. Some people say, "Oh, get out of the world of social networking and so on. It's just it's not authentic." Actually, I think it's tools. It's not a replacement for real relationships, but it's tools that help you maintain those relationships. So, I mean, I'm all over on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. Let me touch on LinkedIn for a moment. LinkedIn is really, really important. LinkedIn helps you maintain those professional relationships. And it's important that you maintain that professional image. I guess I'm contradicting what I said a moment ago of, yes, you want to be as authentic as possible, but your LinkedIn network probably doesn't want to see pictures from your most recent vacation in South Beach in Florida. That's probably not the right place to post those pictures. But LinkedIn is a great place to share with your network. If I were to try to grab coffee with every single one of the people that I've met over the past decade or more, I would have some severe, you're the doctor, but I guess kidney, liver disease. It would be a severe challenge. LinkedIn helps me maintain those relationships. So my advice to all of your listeners is certainly embrace the tools that are available. But I'll take it to the next level. And again, those are tools. You need to get out there. And certainly it's challenging. We're continuing to deal with the pandemic, which has been with us for now over 2 years. But definitely there are opportunities to safely network. And by the way, I'll say that one of the silver linings of the pandemic has been the global world that we are now living in. I am constantly networking with people all over the world that I would have never had the opportunity to meet or maintain a relationship with. So use the various networking events, tools, join your chamber of commerce, get involved in the small business community. And again, you'll meet people they would otherwise not have had the opportunity to meet. And the final thing that I'll say, and I'm happy to go into greater detail on these or anything else with you, is volunteer. And let me touch on that for a moment. So you mentioned in my bio that I've been the chairman of the Economic Development Commission for my hometown of Skokie, Illinois. I am very passionate, as certainly I think over the past 20 minutes we've talked about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I don't hold anything back. If I feel that there's something that needs to be done locally in terms of policy, whether it's on the local, state, federal level, I'm going to talk about it until I'm blue in the face. And I have done that, and I've been able to influence local policy and legislation. Those efforts initially got me in a little bit of trouble, but ultimately actually got a lot of things passed and a lot of things moved along. And I'm very grateful that the mayor appointed me to serve on the first newly created commission. My advocacy was, we have a public access channel that has a commission that oversees it. What about small business? Shouldn't we have that as well? So I was appointed to and then asked to chair that commission. I have met some of the most amazing people on that commission. I have the regional vice president of the local mall, the president of the local hospital, all people that are much smarter and much more talented than I am, and people that I probably would have never have had the opportunity to meet had I not gotten involved. So my advice to all of your listeners, Gail, is that they should volunteer, get involved in things that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about puppies, get involved in the local animal shelter, volunteer. Not only will you be doing something amazing and great, you'll meet people that are like-minded, people that you probably would have never have had the opportunity to meet with as well. And all of those things lead to your building your brand, to, again, stretching your rubber band, as I always say, maintaining the relationships that you already have, but also meeting some new people as well. All of those things are things that I have discovered. And not everybody has a radio show or a podcast like you or I. Those are, by the way, good tools as well. Start a podcast, all of that. But again, between the social networking tools, the local events, as well as virtual events, as well as volunteering, I'd say all of those things will position your listeners for marketing success.
Awesome. Listen, Shalom, you clearly do so much. You're a community leader. I believe you're a husband. You're in the military. You're an author. You're a podcaster. You're a radio show host. How do you balance your life? Mm-hmm. What's the other side?
So that is a work in progress. I'll say that I do take on a lot, and I am very, very time management focused. Every minute of my day is organized. And I send calendar invitations to my wife, even for things like going out to eat and things like that. I try to block out time and stay focused, stay very, very focused, to allow me to move things forward. Almost everything that I have on the calendar, there's almost always a next step to it. I mentioned that about relationships. I also believe that sometimes, with this podcast, for example, I'll just get into the weeds over here. Right before we went live, we talked about, okay, when this airs, we're going to share links and we're going to post it on our respective social media networks and so on. There's almost always a next step. So staying organized, staying focused, that allows me to have that clarity in my day. And so I block out time. And again, I tend to maintain longer hours than a lot of other people, but I block out time for things that are important to me. I continue to this day to meet with job seekers, to help them with their resumes. But in order for me to be the best version of me that I can be, I try to encourage people, block out time with me. If you're going to call me, it's going to be tough, because virtually every minute of the day, from probably about, as we say in the Army, 06 until 2100, pretty long days. I pretty much have things scheduled almost all day long. But staying organized, again, the things that you mentioned in my bio, those are all things that I'm committed to, things that have space on my calendar, things that I block out time for, to not only deal with the reactive pieces of it, make sure I'm following through on, if I committed something, I'm going to do it all the way, but also make sure that proactively I'm scheduling guests for my radio show, I'm writing, helping somebody with a resume and so on. So time management is very important. Contact management is also very important as well, to make sure I find it easy to get in touch with people, to stay in touch with people and so on. Those are all things that allow me to be the best version of me. And as you mentioned, my wife Ellie, she puts up with a lot of my craziness and my service, and my service is really, really important to me. So that has certainly been something that I'd say not everybody joins the Army at age 29. Most people tend to do that a couple of years earlier, but it's become increasingly the biggest piece of my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, you remind me of me. You have the energy of about 3 people, but I still want to get deeper. I want to know, because there's being and there's doing. And I'm a big doer too. I do all those things you just said. But then I need to take space also for me, myself, is what I do is I pray, I meditate, I spend time, just being and being with, what I see as greater than me, God, if you want to call God, and all of those things. And a lot of that for me comes in nature when I go out with my horse, or sometimes I just do it here. I have an altar that I've built. But are you still involved with the Jewish community?
Yes. So I'm glad you're asking. Yes, I always have been. And I grew up in a strong Jewish home. And what I mean by that is a strong home of values and identity. And so I went through 12 years of private Jewish day school. And that laid a foundation. But I'd say now as an adult, as a professional, I've built on that foundation. And I've discovered who I am, and having that spiritual foundation is easily one of the most important things, if not the most important thing in my life. And I'll, if it's okay, I'll dive into that a little bit more. So I went through Jewish day school and learned, studied. Some of your listeners might be familiar with again the Talmud and things like that. I'd say that was learning the text. When I came into the Army, a lot of people asked me two things, and I'm smiling and laughing as I think about it. They asked me, "Oh, you're joining the Army, you're joining the Israeli Defense Force." I'm like, no, I'm in the United States. I am serving my country. So that was one, and that's just on the comical note, and I'll leave that one there. Second thing that people asked me is, "Oh, you're becoming a chaplain." And it's very interesting that people thought that of me, but I resisted it. And now I'll share with you in a moment how it's come full circle. But people saw me, and I guess as a people person, but also as a man of faith and identity. And I am not the same person observance-wise that I was a bunch of years ago. I found, together with my wife, we found who we are and what's important, and those values that are most meaningful. So there's as devout Jews, Shabbat begins Friday night, and we are always part of a Shabbat service. Even during the pandemic, I'd say that that actually opened up a new found focus on religious identity, because we were actually able to zoom in to be a part of services from around the world. And I love it. My wife and I, by the way, have traveled all over the place. I've been on all continents. I've been to 48 countries. I've met some of the most amazing people, and I've learned a lot from everybody. And coming to the Army, I just wanted to keep my head down. I told everybody, no, I'm not becoming a chaplain. I wanted to be, as we say in the Army, hua. I wanted to be very intense, and I wanted to be the best soldier that I can be, the best officer that I can be, and I resisted it. And I just planned to keep my head down. And with a name like Klein, I figured, some people will know I'm Jewish, but that's fine. I will say this, that I've been in the Army now for a bunch of years, and I've not experienced an ounce of anti-Semitism. And nothing but respect and space for my service. But I come to basic training, and basic training is exactly as you see in the movies and on TV. It was an intense experience, and I spent 10 weeks completely out of touch with my family, literally just writing letters, back to the basics. But a week in, I went, my plan was to go to all of the services, all of the religious services that are available. On Sunday mornings, you have a choice of either going to religious services or cleaning your bay, sweeping and sweeping and then sweeping some more. So what does anybody pick? Of course, you go to religious services, even if you don't necessarily, if you are not particularly a religious person, you get out of cleaning for a couple hours and you're able to go to services. So my plan was to go to every service that was available. But I went to the Jewish service first. I wanted to see, what is Jewish life like in the Army? And 1 week later, I found myself leading the Jewish services on Fort Benning, Georgia. So here I am, one of the most junior people. I just entered into the Army 2 weeks ago, and I'm already leading services for hundreds of people at Fort Benning, Georgia. And I found it incredibly meaningful. And then fast forward, later I'm becoming an officer, again, continuing to lead services. I then go for some of my advanced training in Missouri, and again, I'm leading services. And I enjoyed it very, very much. Right now, I'm having this conversation with you from Fort Bliss, Texas, where I've been mobilized over the past year. And I was asked to be the Jewish lay leader, because there's only 12 active duty Jewish chaplains in the Army. Which is unfortunate, because I believe that, especially in the Army, where people are called on to serve in some pretty intense situations, religion, as you suggested, is very important. So I was asked to be the Jewish lay leader, and so I've been leading services, not only on this installation, but a couple of other installations as well. And I've had an aha moment where I realized that I've been running away from who I am and from my strengths. And I'm a military police officer currently, proud to be a military police officer. I've had the fortune of leading dozens and dozens and dozens of soldiers over the past few years. But all of those things, it's great. What do I really care about? It's impacting soldiers and people's heart, soul, and mind. And so I made the decision to become an Army chaplain. And I went back to school, and I am back in school now after finishing my doctorate, which I thought I would never do, but I finished it, and I thought, okay, I'm done with school. I decided to go back to rabbinical school. So now I'm a couple of trimesters in to becoming a rabbi. And that is one of my other identities, and how I spend a lot of time is learning. But going back to how I started, that's a pretty long answer to your short question. I mentioned that I went to school and we were learning for the sake of learning. Now I'm learning how to learn, and spending so much time also learning about counseling, learning about things that just about faith in general, and how to counsel those that are not just of my own faith, but all people. And I believe chaplain is the best job in the Army, because it is the only, as we say, the MOS, the military occupational specialty, that is focused on the heart, soul, and mind. And that's the future. That's where I'll be in a couple of years from now. After finishing my studies, I plan to switch over into the chaplain role.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I don't know if you remember this, but when we first exchanged information, it was, I think, on an email or a text or something. And I said, I just heard your name and I felt a spiritual connection. Do you remember? That's the first thing I
do.
said to you.
It was right before Thanksgiving. I remember exactly where I was standing. And yes, we were connected by our mutual friend, Rena Friedman Watts. And you did say that. And I answered the phone and we connected. And you said that right from the beginning. And it put a smile on my face. So thank you.
Well, I'm very intuitive and I tapped into that. So I had to have you talk about it. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
That's the man behind the microphone there.
Absolutely. Again, you can't do anything halfway. Do it all the way.
Right? Yeah, especially that. So, Well, this has just been so much fun. Is there anything particular you want to leave my guests with, as far as, I mean, that was a beautiful story, whether it be mind, body, spirit, whether it be business, whether it be, I mean, you actually carry many hats, so.
I do. It gets tiring in my head. I know your listeners can't necessarily see me, but yeah, lots of hats. I will leave you with this. Service is really important. Service is really, really important, and service can be defined in so many different ways. I have another podcast in addition to my Get Down to Business radio show. I have a podcast called We All Serve. And in that, I primarily focus on military leadership. And I get the opportunity to talk to some amazing, amazing people that have been all about service for decades and decades and decades. But I really believe in that phrase, we all serve. That it does not require putting a uniform on, that everybody can serve in some way. It goes back to those lessons that I shared earlier of step up, get involved. My pet peeve is the word they. When people say they, they didn't make that available, or they didn't think of this. There's no wizard behind the curtain. If you want something done, do it yourself. And especially now in this day and age, when we need service, we need good examples now more than ever. So yes, I'm biased. I love my service for my country, for my community. I love it, and frankly, I think that I believe in a national year of service. I believe that after high school, I think that young adults would do well. If actually, much like they do in Israel, of having, they call it Sheirut Leumi, which is essentially a year of community service. So maybe that means going to a hospital and volunteering, or maybe it means joining the military. It doesn't necessarily need to be the military, but stepping up in community service. And it doesn't need to be just for young people. I think everybody has extra bandwidth. No matter how busy you are, you always have some way that you can give back. We all serve. And if you do that, I can tell you, and this ties to everything that I know you are so passionate about, I can promise your listeners it will come back full circle. Give all that you can into the world, and the world will give it back to you many, many, many timefold. And you'll be rewarded. And I believe that's true with charity. I believe that's true in the time that you give. I believe it's true with your passion and your expertise. And again, I'm speaking out loud, and I'm saying this to myself as well. And sometimes it is tiring. It is tiring to do all of those things that I know you do, Gail, and that I do. It's tiring, but again, I look back at I'm 32 years old right now, and I'm very, very blessed. I'm very, very blessed, and have been afforded so many opportunities, and it's come, I 100% believe, because of what I've tried to put out there into the world. So if I can leave you and everybody else, just amazing, amazing people out there, with something, it's give as much as you can. Give as much as you can, and you will receive abundantly more.
I couldn't agree with you more, 100%. I believe we're all put here to serve other souls, and you so eloquently put it into some categories for people, but there's a lot of ways to serve, and thank you for your service, but it could be just helping people across the street, or it could be, volunteering in a hospital, or many, many ways to serve. But right now, our planet needs us to serve it, and whatever way that you can find to do that, even if it's in your own behavior. That's what I'm trying to get across, is by modifying our behavior as humans, just in little ways. Stop single-use plastics, drive less, consume less, don't buy so many clothes, buy locally. All these very small things, that's going to help. That's in the long run. And it does come back to you. As a matter of fact, science has shown that if you do an act of compassion, it's good for your immunity. And of course, that's not why we do it. We do it because we want to serve. We want to, give. And like you said, give all that you can. But it turns out it raises your T cells and your immunity too. So it does come back. I mean, it's proven scientifically. And also you feel a whole lot better. I think it's invigorating, actually, and I see that in you. You serve, you give, and you're invigorated. You're full of energy from it.
Look at how you and I connected. I mean, this is a good example of it really is, again, one connection after another. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is you meet amazing people, but 100%. No, it is as much coffee as I drink, and I drink too much coffee. I get far more energy from conversations like this, and again, doing all these things. So I couldn't agree with you more, Gail. And you really, really thank you for all that you do. I know you and I share a passion for making a difference, and your service is incredible as well. And I know you're inching your way towards again, changing the world one little bit at a time, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on, and I hope to be able to talk to you soon. I'm going to end now, but I just want to give great thanks to you for all that you do for everyone.
Thank you very much.
I'm Dr. Gail Randall, creator and host of Soul Stories. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I recently got a notification from the international podcast people, and I was astounded that so many countries are listening to my podcast in the category of alternative health. So thank you, and please continue to listen. I especially want to thank Egypt, Croatia, Japan, and Switzerland, also France and Ireland, because my numbers were quite high there. So keep up the good work, and check out my Instagram at Dr. Gail Randall, and particularly check out my Instagram TV, where you can hear me talking about alternative medicine subjects and also see me. It's a very good show, and I think you'll like the subjects. It's on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, but it's recorded there, so you can find it there anytime you look. Okay, thanks again. I love you guys. This is Dr. Gail Randall from Soul Stories, and author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. I want to thank Saltology, our sponsor, at bathsalt.com, which fits perfectly into my medicine bag as it, like me, calls upon the ancient wisdom and modern technology to heal, especially with the stresses and ills of our modern times. The Bokek brand uses organic salts combined with organic essential oils sourced from ancient Egypt to provide a perfect remedy for your bathing ritual and healing from modern stresses. The Relief RX brand is a unique one-of-a-kind healing salt that uses organic CBD, treated with a unique emulsification process to create nanoparticles which easily enter the skin to most effectively heal and relieve aching muscles and joints. Whether from chronic inflammation or just a rough workout, this is the perfect healing bath, especially when you add the organic essential oils of neroli, lavender, eucalyptus, or grapefruit. Your body, mind, and soul will be lifted and soothed like never before. Go now to bathsalt.com. I also want to give special thanks to Larry Antonino and Agora Borealis Recording Studio for music and score, and also to closetotheearth.com for IT and computer assistance. Also supported by Randall Wellness Network, bringing health and wellness to you directly. Medical futurist Dr. Gail Madeleine Randall brings 40-plus years as one of America's most forward-thinking doctors, healers, and emerging authors onto a diverse media platform to empower our paths to health, wellness, increased consciousness, and vitality. Gail Madeleine Randall, MD, has long practiced, taught, and encouraged patients to take control of their healing processes and journeys. Randall Wellness Network provides a 360-degree platform for people to heal themselves, and she most emphasizes regenerative approaches for healing individuals, communities, and the planet as one. For more information, go to drgmrandall.com and Instagram at drgailrandall, and check out the robust Instagram series on Instagram TV, also Facebook, Randall Wellness, and also Dr. Gail Randall.